Renato Moicano has a fight coming up. Probably Beneil Dariush in June. Moicano and Dariush were supposed to fight in January, but Moicano ended up fighting Makhachev in short notice, replacing Sarukian. So Dariush was left without a fight. So consequently, he hasn't fought in like a year and 4 months. His last fight was at the end of 2023, where he got stopped by Arman Sarukian. Ilia Topuria was saying that he wasn't the biggest fan of Demetrius Johnson in his prime, and Demetrius Johnson takes it in stride. Aaron Pico looking to take on either Aljamain Sterling or Brian Ortega next.
Honest with you, you guys know me. Like, you know, everybody has their own style. Like, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna just smash everybody. But I want to look at it like very objectively. Like, they offered me Mobsar, so okay, I have a name now. So I look at Mobsar and I say, well, who did he fight last? He fought Aljamain Sterling. And then who was he supposed to fight? If I'm not mistaken, I think he was supposed to. I heard Brian Ortega, so I'm like, okay, well, give me a Brian Ortega or give me an Aljamain Sterling. You know, I have something to work with now. Aljamain, Ortega. Let's go if you guys are ready to fight.
Ian Garry's the slight favorite over Carlos Prates next week. He went 5 rounds in his last fight, so he has that 25-minute experience in the UFC. He's also more willing to use his wrestling and grappling in fights, so in that sense, he has more tools to work with. But Prates has shown he's so dangerous in the striking domain. 10-fight KO streak. All 4 of his UFC fights were performance of the night winners, but for Ian Garry, he still thinks it's going to be easy for him.
I'm going to go out there on April 26th against Carlos Prates, and I'm going to prove that there's levels to this, that I am better. And there's going to be nobody that's going to expect what I'm going to do to him. Absolutely manhandle and outclass him. There's going to be nothing that he's going to be able to do. I'm going to put this guy to sleep. I'm going to leave him unconscious, and I'm going to go and I'm going to fight for the belt. That's my plan.
That belt would be the welterweight belt, which is on the line 2 weeks after that fight between Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. But Ian Garry, if he wins, probably wouldn't get a title shot. Islam Makhachev wants to contend for that belt, but the likelihood of Makhachev getting a title shot would be increased if Jack Della Maddalena wins. Carlos Prates, not a fan of some of the things that Ian Garry said about him, like calling him a quitter.
Enquanto o Ian Garry tá na internet falando merda, tá com muito tempo livre. Tô aqui treinando pro dia 26, enchendo de murro na boca. Depois ele vai ficar falando que não teve tempo pra treinar, porque tava na internet falando merda. Arrombado.
Okay, listen. Challenges we're going to work extremely hard. We're going to try to do the best that we can. Sometimes we're going to fall short. We're going to come up short. But we're always going to keep our head up.
We're always going to keep our head up.
Even if you get some cuts on your face.
Even if you get some cuts.
Okay. I love you. Cheers.
So entertaining, but sometimes it's best to not be as entertaining and just to be better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and shut people down.
At the same time, you don't have to be Bilal.
Right.
Alex Pereira training in Rio. He'll probably be taking on Uncle Ive in August. The guy who was known for calling out John Jones and didn't end up being great at all. That was a tweet that John Jones tweeted and deleted. Who he's talking about, people don't really know.
Fabian Edwards, 185.6 pounds. Imba Kasanganai, 185.6 pounds.
Fedor was probably the biggest fighter that Dana White wanted to sign but wasn't able to sign. Joe Rogan knows he never signed with the UFC due to intense negotiations involving Russian management who demanded ownership in the UFC and things of that nature. The negotiations turned confrontational, with Rogan noting that UFC President Dana White increased security due to involvement with gangster-type figures from Russia. All this info was relayed to him by Dana White, though, so who knows all the accuracy of the details.
So Fedor was controlled by some Russian people that were very rough men.
Okay.
As it were, gangster type characters, and they had a bunch of negotiations with the UFC, but they were very unreasonable demands. Like, they wanted part of the promotion. They wanted to own a piece of everything. They wanted a lot because they knew that with Fedor they had their golden ticket and they wanted to play it out as much as possible.
Okay.
The negotiations were very intense and very confrontational. They got bad, where Dana had to up his security. It got pretty, it got heavy. Yeah. These are dangerous people. These were dangerous people. It got, I can tell you more off air. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that story.
I'll tell you more off air. You should talk to Dana about it. It got crazy.
4-day WBC boxing Grand Prix going on. 128 fighters in the tournament.
Today in Riyadh, inshallah, the competition with WBC will start. 128 fighters in Riyadh. It is new hope, a new page open for the fans and the champion and the boxing field. Good luck, everyone.
Back in the day, the UFC were on Fox, but they originally wanted to go to NBC, but Vince McMahon prevented that from happening, so they ended up going to Fox.
So I'm on the 1 yard line. We're about to get a deal done with NBC. And one of my, big deal points was that the Ultimate Fighter had to be on USA. So we're literally in New York for days hammering it out with all the executives over there. And finally they come back and say, all right, we'll do it. We'll put the Ultimate Fighter on USA. So the next day we come back and, we're about to sign the deal and do all the stuff. And they're like, we can't believe this. We didn't know this. We just found out. Vince McMahon has the right to determine whether another combat sport can come on to USA. And I'm like, what? We'll fly out to Connecticut. We'll meet with Vince and we'll see if we can get this done. We sit down. We lay it out to him, tell him the story. He's like, yeah, I don't want you on the network. We're like, why? Why? I just don't want it. So that blew up the whole NBC deal. So then we pick up the phone, we call Eric Shanks, we fly out to LA, and we do the Fox deal.
I'm Pascal Kraus.
This is Eric New Breed Coat. Joe K-San. Again. One more.